Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm finding out how many nuclear bombs I need to beat Baby Gotham. The nuke moves like a queen and a knight for any distance in any direction. And to make this even remotely a challenge, I'm going to try and capture every single one of Baby Gotham's pieces before I give checkmate. Let's get started with game number 1. Alright, game number 1, we have one nuke on the board, and normally I would say I'm going to add one nuke every game, but to be honest, I'd be blown away if it didn't just take me a single one to defeat Baby Gotham. Now it does start with knight to f6, which is a very sound move, and although a little bit boring, I'm going to start by just kind of hanging out with my nuke for a little bit. The starting chess position doesn't inherently have any free pieces, so the only way I'd be able to target them is with the nuke moving like a knight and getting to that back rank. So, like I said, a little bit boring, but the first thing that I'm going to do is just pick up these free rooks, grab, the outside, really easy to pick off pieces, and then kind of wait for free material while I snatch it all up with my nuclear bomb that I have on the board. Now, for this first rook, I think I just have to slide over 1, then I can move, grab that rook for free. So I'll slide over 1. Oh, I didn't even realize that it put the king in check. But the Gotham baby does and stops it with pawn to d6. I can't just jump into a pawn and continue to capture like it's checkers. So instead, I will capture my free rook. We do get bishop to d7 in response. Now, both of these pawns are free. I have to capture everybody at some point, so I'll go ahead and take this pawn for the time being. And we do get bishop to g4, meaning that this pawn on a7 is also still free. Now, knight to d5. So we do have 2 free pieces in the middle of the board, which create the biggest threat against my king. The other thing I have to keep in mind is I have to be very careful not to accidentally checkmate Baby Gotham. Luckily, earlier we had pawn to d6, but it's not completely unheard of to accidentally mate somebody with a chess variant piece, especially one that has like these repeating knight moves at distance. But okay, for the time being, I think it still has enough pieces on the board. I'm just going to slide back and fork the knight and the bishop, and Baby Gotham is going to say, really, you're going to attack my knight and bishop? Well, then have your pick. I'm feeling generous today. Now, this doesn't create any threats. The knight, I think, would be a little more annoying. If I do capture a knight's distance away, the king is still fine. So I think I can just take this knight. So far, so good. It's going to insist that I grab this free bishop, so I will. All right, we get pawn to f5. Still no concrete threats on the board. I think I can just take this. And again, this really does just move like a queen, and then you have that added knight that moves any distance, which is really the only odd thing about this nuclear weapon. So as long as any capture I make doesn't put me some version, either 1 or 2 knights distances away from the king, then I should be totally fine. So I'll go ahead and take on f5. We get pawn to e5 in response. Now again, I'm trying to capture all of its pieces before I give checkmate. So this entire game is going to be me looking for free pieces and how I can sneakily attack them with my nuclear weapon. So h8 has to be falling off at some point. I can't attack it on g6. I just pointed to g5. One step back, I can't attack it on f4. So I guess I'd have to slide back to e2. I'd really rather not do that if I can avoid it. Is there anything else free? Weirdly enough, everything here is defended. Okay, let me highlight all the squares that are a knight's distance away from the rook, because I can go to basically any of them as long as they're not blocked off. Okay, so those are all of the squares. Now, as I just said, d6 is blocked off, so neither of those work. f7 is protected, g6 is protected, f4 is protected. That literally just leaves e2. So I guess I am going back. I'll go back just 1 square though, because I can get to e2 from the center, and if I can stay in the center, I'd much rather that. Okay, Baby Gotham agrees that the center is a great place to be, and slides the king up to d7. I will slide my nuclear missile back to e2, and we get queen to g5, which weirdly enough I cannot take, but I can take on h8. Now I'm a little bit concerned about my king being here in the center. There are no other pieces that can quickly develop and get to my king's position, besides the queen, which is already on g5, but she single-handedly won't checkmate me. And I'm going to be a little bit bold and brash here and assume that the queen won't find a way to checkmate me, and definitely won't hang around and try to get threefold repetition. So I think I'm just going to grab this rook on h8, though I forgot to check if the king was a knight's distance away, but luckily he is not. We get queen to g4 in response. Now, what on earth is stopping me from just taking this bishop with check? Right, because c6 is not a knight's distance away. It can't be if it's 1 square diagonal from d7, and moving like a queen does not even begin to remotely affect the c6 square. So I can just give this check, force the king to come up to c6. Now, we've made a lot of progress on taking pieces. How can I continue to do that? If I take on b8, that's also check. King to d5 is at least 1 legal square, and that's all I need. I just need Baby Gotham to have 1 square that he can move to, so I can safely continue to capture pieces. So I can take on b8, c5 works as well, I guess. If I take on c5, b4 and d4 are both totally safe. At some point, I would love to take this queen, though. The problem is we have all of these central pawns, which make it very difficult to set up. I guess that's a horrible example, but moving backwards from the queen, you can see this pawn on e5 stands in the middle of, for example, where my nuclear missile on a7 stands in between my nuclear missile and that queen. So eventually I do have to make progress on taking all of these pawns. I've also just noticed I made fun of baby Gotham for developing its king earlier, and this king is getting suspiciously close to my king, to the point that mating threats are feasible, we'll say it like that. Okay, if I keep taking on d6, king comes down, I can take on e5, queen stands in between. That's kind of uncomfortable. But again, I have to make progress on these pieces at some point. Oh, thank goodness. This video I feel like would have been way more interesting had it moved to e3 instead, because obviously there's just checkmate on the board. But we get king to c3 instead, which is wonderful news because I can take on e5, fork the king and the queen. The king has plenty of space to run around on the queen side, and then I can just chop off these final few pawns. Thank you, and bon appetit. Okay, now checkmating. Of course I'm not going to use the king. In fact, I'll put it in the corner just to be totally clear. I have no intention of using this king. Instead, I'm going to mate with just the nuclear bomb. I mean, you can see if I highlight it, there are entire sets of squares. For example, imagine the king on g8, where the king would have no legal moves if it were getting checked by the nuclear bomb. Actually, just by saying that out loud, I realized that I can move it from I can move it from h6 to b3 and actually deliver checkmate. With that, we do defeat the baby Gotham bot with our nuclear bomb. Surprise, surprise, nobody could have seen that coming. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below if I should use this nuclear missile against any other of our favorite bots. I was thinking Martin in particular. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.